Alright everyone, Geordie Paul here. Welcome back as always to Magpie Movies. Thanks for joining me. Today we're doing a review of the 800, the new or last year's historic epic. As always, before I get into the review, please don't forget to drop me a subscription, which would be great. Hit the notification bell so every time I get a new video you'll be notified. That would be awesome. And if you like the video, give it a thumbs up. There we go. So yes, the 800. One that I hadn't heard of until a couple of weeks ago. I jumped on the bandwagon when I saw a few other people buying it, and I thought, you know what, I like me war films, and this one looks quite good. So this one came out last year. It had now bear in mind I'm going to be reading some stuff because I made loads of notes for this. So this had an £80 million or $80 million budget for it. It made $461 million gross, to making it the top grossing film of 2020. Bear in mind, obviously, with COVID, that could be exaggerated. It did beat 10 at the box office, but that's probably no disrespect to the film, but not many films were probably out at that time. But still, for an 80 million budget and 460 million come back, that's pretty good. So the film itself is on for 2 hours and 29 minutes. It has an aspect ratio of 235:1, which means you will have a bar here and you will have a bar there. So it's in that. It was shot in IMAX, but there's no IMAX scenes in it, unfortunately. It's directed by Hugh Guan, I believe it's pronounced. It is in English, it is in Japanese, and it is in Chinese. So you do have some subtitles within it. So that is the technical stuff for it. So what is the 800 about? So I've done a bit of research into this. Again, I'm going to be looking at my notes. So it is set in Shanghai in China in 1937. It's set between the 26th of October and the 1st of November in 1937. Its class as being is in the early days of what's called the Sino or Sino-Japanese War, where the Imperial Japanese Army invaded Shanghai in China, which then became known as the Battle of Shanghai. So the Japanese, as you can see when you're watching the film, the warehouse in which the soldiers are located was a strategic position where the Japanese were outgunning, outnumbering, and just basically destroying all the Chinese troops. So the Chinese were then retreating through Shanghai before they got to a bridge, and on the other side of the bridge were foreign concessions. So you had like US Army, you had nightclubs, you had American and everything. So everything on the other side was not to be attacked because the Japanese still had a kind of peaceable agreement with them, and they didn't want them to come into their fight with the Chinese. So they were very much making sure it didn't happen. So as the Chinese are retreating to this bridge to go to the concession stand, there's the warehouse. Now within the warehouse was basically a final stand to make sure that whatever soldiers were in there were covering from there, from sniper points, from windows, to make sure that any retreating Chinese soldiers would then take refuge in there while the Japanese troops were advancing. Now, as I said earlier on, they didn't attack the foreign concessions over in Shanghai, over the bridge from you see in the movie, because like I said, they remained in peaceable terms with the foreign, because they didn't want those to become involved in the Japanese-Chinese war. However, they did occupy that concession area 4 years later, when the Americans and the British joined the Allies and the Japanese joined the Germans and such like. That's basically it. So because the Japanese decided to go to war with the Allies during the Second World War, and the English and the British on the other side of this bridge, the concessions, were part of the Allies, they then invaded that part 4 years later. But this is set, like I said earlier on, than that. So within the warehouse, there were 452, according to Wikipedia, Chinese soldiers. Now, they were called the 800 because the commander of these 452 troops relayed, to a Chinese girl guide that there were 800 troops in there, to reveal to the public and to the press that there were 800 troops in there. That way, giving false numbers to the Japanese who were attacking them, thinking there was a larger number than there were in there. So although there weren't 800 on there, the 800 is what it got called, known as, so that the Japanese troops thought there was a larger number in the warehouse than there was. So here you go. So that's historical stuff. The film itself, like I said, I watched the other day. It's on for 2.5 hours. It's subtitles, but some of it's in English because of the concessions with the American and the English press, soldiers and everything. So you have some non-subtitled parts of it. This truly is an epic. You look at the scale and grandeur of the sets that they've made, because if you look at special features, it showed you they made a complete replica of the Shanghai bridge, where the warehouse was, where the concessions were, all the neon signs, everything. It was all set. It looks fantastic. It's filmed in like a sepia kind of picture, which I think enhances it. It also has interlacing cuts of black and white historical footage, because there were press who went into the building or press who were filming it from the other side of the bridge, because it was one of the first kind of war things which was filmed really and photographed before the outbreak of the Second World War, or the early stages of the Second World War. But yeah, it's just, this film, I watched it and it's just epic. I watched it downstairs on my 4K TV. Now, obviously this is a Blu-ray, but my 4K player upscaled it and it looked absolutely stunning. It's really, really great picture. You don't get lost too much with the subtitles being on there. It is very much a non-stop action film, really. I've spoken to a few Bluetubers and I'm telling them to watch it. I highly recommend this movie. It is really good. I can't really put any dampener or negative on it, to be honest. The way it's shot is great. The action scenes are great. The set, as I said earlier, is brilliant. It's just overall a fantastic film. I know there's a lot of people who don't want to watch films because they're subtitled. Give it a go. You know, Parasite was fantastic. That was subtitled. This is fantastic. So yeah, so that's 800. So yeah, it starts off with, like I said, the Chinese retreating. They shot and killed any deserters. Other than that, the people who've run away and retreated then go into the warehouse, and then they have to hold the warehouse. It's all about the camaraderie within the warehouse, the way they're trying to tackle the Japanese forces coming in, and this is all before the eyes of the public on the other side of the river. It's really bizarre that the Japanese used really toxic gas during this kind of invasion of China, but they never used it on the warehouse because they didn't want the worldwide public knowing that they were using this toxic gas. So when they attacked the warehouse, they didn't use it. But yeah, anyway, so there you go. So that's the film. I'm not going to spoil any more. It's basically about the Chinese retreating, the Japanese attacking, them holding out the warehouse, and that's basically it. It's on for 2.5 hours. Give it a go. So from a Rolfie's review point of view, what would I score this film? I'm going to give this film an 8 out of 10. I was thinking 7.5, but I think after I watched it and had a good think about it, I'm going to give it an 8 out of 10. It's highly recommended. If you get it on, if it comes on the Sky, or if it comes on the Virgin, or you get it cheap, I know it's like $6.99, $7.99 on Amazon now. Give it a go. It does look like a DVD case, but it is Blu-ray, even though it doesn't Blu-ray on the top. So there you go. So thank you so much for watching this review. I hope you find it informative. Apologies if I'm looking to my right here, because I'm reading everything that I wrote down note-wise. I wanted to get the history part of it involved. I love my historical dramas, and I wanted to make sure that when you're coming into watching this after this review, if you do, then you know the kind of backstory, or just have a look on Wikipedia like I did. I'm not going to say I didn't know everything about this. I looked it up, wrote it down, and I'm telling you guys. So there you go. Thanks so much, as I said early on, for watching. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe if you like this video. You can, of course, as always, follow me over on Instagram here, magpie_movies1978. Thank you again to all those who watched the live stream last night. It was just going to be me, Pete, and Rob. So it was nice that Jamie and Big Pauly popped in and James wanted to come on, so that was great. I had a good time, and I hope you did too. We managed to get through all of the questions you asked. Maybe not as quick as I would have personally liked, but we got there in the end. We're back again on Sunday with Leon Talks Film, so I hope that you tune in for that. But yeah, that's my review done. Thanks for watching, and I shall see you on my next video. This is Geordie Paul, last surviving member of Magpie Movies, signing out.